used to think that foundation of marriage was trust, that the quiet times, the laughs shared, the whispered pledges meant something. I felt I had discovered my lifetime mate, the man who would be at my side no matter what. I corrected myself. We go as Lana Thompson. As a 35-year-old corporate attorney, I considered my marriage to be strong until last week. My husband Nathan, a guy of ambition, knowledge, and loyalty, seemed to me to be my equal. We connected throughout late evenings of study, met in law school, and pushed one another to achieve. I assumed I was creating something real when we were married, something impervious. But when a foundation is based on lies, even the best ones can fall. It began with an elementary text. Hey, sweetheart, I caught 3 fish today. Solitude is greatly helping me to straighten my head. Attached was a picture of a calm, unspoiled lake beside a tent. It was meant to be evidence that Nathan was out in the forest, detoxing from job tension, reestablishing contact with the earth. 2 days ago, he vowed he would be back a new man, kissed me goodbye, and informed me 2 days ago when he packed his equipment. I might have thought him right. Relieved that he was at last spending time for himself, I might have grinned at his comment. Except I was staring at still another picture. Rachel, one of my colleagues, had just shown me by running into my office. Nathan relaxing at a Maldivian beachfront bar, his arms slung across his secretary, Brianna Moore. 2 minutes ago, the timestamp read. My fingers stayed constant while my stomach turned over as I typed back, "That's fantastic, honey. That you find calm in nature makes me very happy." I sent it and exhaled gently. Rachel looked at me, her face white. "Oh my God, Lana." I apologize. "Your course of action is what?" I closed my laptop and felt my hands glide over the immaculate desktop. "I'm going to let him keep lying." Rachel's eyebrows wrinkled. "Shouldn't you face him?" I grinned, a gradual, controlled curl of my lips. "No. I first want to destroy his whole life." Nathan considered himself to be smart. Nevertheless, he was cautious. He had undervalued me. That evening, I started digging as he watched the sunset with his lover and drank cocktails. First, pay attention to the money. Starting to pull records, I logged into our shared accounts. The pattern was clear. First-class tickets reserved 3 months ago, costly dinners, jewelry I had never worn, hotel visits, cities he had claimed to be working in. The scariest revelation came from a $200,000 wire payment to a Maldives bank account, one I was not familiar with. As I cross-checked the account specifics using our financial records, my heart hammered. It was not only a fund for secrets. Nathan bought a house using our money. In the Maldives, a luxury penthouse, I closed my eyes and deep inhaled. It went beyond a mere affair. He was starting again in life. Life without me. The second step is to protect my belongings. Spending the following few hours ensuring Nathan wouldn't be able to touch a cent more of my money under a trust he was unable to access, I moved my personal funds to a different account. I reported fraudulent activity, called my bank, and froze our shared accounts. I began documentation for an emergency injunction meant to stop him from selling any jointly owned assets. Then, for good measure, I sent my divorce attorney an email and set up a hurried meeting. Nathan was drinking champagne in his pilfered paradise when I was scorching his kingdom to the ground. I then started on step 3, gathering proof. The next day, Nathan's company forbade professional interactions strictly from policy standpoint. Executive and subordinate fraternization was grounds for swift dismissal. I went over Brianna's social media, grabbing screenshots of every damning article. Nathan's watch visible behind her supper pictures. Selfies in his workplace after hours. Last month's caption, "Late evenings at the workplace never felt so good. How dumb could they have been?" I put everything into a tidy folder, called it HR Violation Evidence, and emailed it straight to Nathan's company's head of human resources. All was ready by the time Nathan got back from his camping trip. Tanned and grinning, he passed in the front door with his luggage rolling after him. "Babe, I missed..." He paused. The house had half unoccupied occupancy. Boxes lined the hall, his stuff orderly arranged beside the door. His face stopped. "Lana, what's happening?" I drank my wine leaning against the kitchen counter. "Oh, nothing. Simply clearing space." His eyes dart to the laptop laying open on the dining table. One of Brianna's Facebook pictures, showing Nathan kissing her on a yacht in the Maldives, was on the screen. The blood flowed off his face. "Lana, Silencing him, I raised a single finger. "Don't," I replied gently. You will want to save your justifications for someone who loves. Taking the folder from the counter, I threw it at his feet. He stooped down and turned the pages, bank records, property records, messages, pictures, evidence proving he was not only a liar, he was a robber. His hands shakes. Lana, we can have this corrected. It's simply an error. I slanted my head. Oh, we are correcting it, okay. His phone hummed on the counter at that point. A warning email alert. I watched his face contorted in fear as his eyes flicked over the screen. Effective immediately. You have been let go from Montgomery Partners. His hands faltered. Desperate, he raised his gaze to me. What activities did you engage in? I grinned and held up my wine glass. Oh, Nathan. I slowed down to enjoy the flavor of success. You have no idea what I am capable of. The fury inside me persisted even after I dropped my phone down after messaging Nathan with a phony, loving message. He considered me to be dumb. He assumed I would really believe his small detox hideaway in the forest when he was relaxing on a sunny beach with his young secretary. But Nathan was ignorant of the fact that I was not only a betrayed wife, my occupation was law. One lawyer who understood how to dissect falsehoods and reveal the guilty, I locked the door and fast-called Rachel into my office. Could you assist me to investigate some financial transactions? Keeping a steady voice? I asked. Rachel gave a quick nod. Naturally. Why is this happening? I opened my laptop and retrieved the shared bank account transaction list. In a few seconds, the truth was far worse than I had anticipated. First-class plane tickets for Punta Cana came with fees. Reservation for a 5-star resort. Expensive jewelry. The $90,000 that had been sent to an unidentified account during the preceding few months caused the most stomach trouble, though. Nathan has been hiding money, Rachel remarked with tense voice. This is not only an affair, Lana. He intends to be leaving you. I put my hands tightly together. Was he really thinking he could just leave me in financial catastrophe? Not at all in heaven. Indices I should not have ignored. I opened Brianna's Facebook page as Rachel kept poring over the financial details. It was also quite simple. Her chronology was overflowing with evidence. On the evening, Nathan had informed me he was working late, a supper at a fine restaurant. Taken on the same evening, I was home alone, managing client divorce documents, a picture of 2 wine glasses on a resort balcony, a photo featuring fresh, expensive heels accompanied by the phrase, "Spoiled by the most amazing dude." It was Nathan, that dude was. And those sneakers? Paid for out of my pocket. Breathing heavily, I knocked my pen down on my desk. He is not only a cheater, I stated coldly. He is a professional con artist. Rachel stared at me, her resolve clear in her eyes. Then what are you going to do? I gave a small smile. Nathan wanted to engage in gameplay. Okay, still, I followed my own rules, and I never missed. I couldn't afford to behave impulsively. I needed strong evidence if I was going to destroy Nathan. First, get my money under control. I promptly blocked all joint accounts after phoning my personal bank manager, therefore preventing Nathan from draining any more of my money. Second step, look at latent resources. I paid a private investigator, a former co-worker I had handled legal problems together before. He began tracking Nathan's covert money activities. Third step, have Nathan come clean. I needed Nathan to own his lies. So I performed dumb. I SMS him, "I just want your voice. I miss you so much. Can you call me tonight?" He responded within a few minutes. Sure, darling. I will phone following our group meeting. One meeting. Oh, correct. Meeting on the beach with Brianna. On my phone, I logged a record. Nathan had no idea he was about to bury himself. My phone rang exactly at 10 p.m. I picked up, beautiful voice flowing through. "How's the travel, love?" Nathan let out a rather long sigh. "It's fantastic, but I miss you terribly. Where do you presently find yourself?" Grasping my pen, I asked gently. "I'm in my tent, staring up the stars." I looked at my laptop. Brianna's Facebook had just added a fresh image. Nathan giggling on the beach beneath the moonlight, waist held. A cold ran down my back. "Really?" I started to smile. "Send me a photograph." He stood back. My phone's battery is low." A straightforward falsehood. I heard enough. I felt triumph rush as I hung up the call. Lying in bed with another lady, Nathan felt he had me deceived. He had no idea he had just given me the last piece of proof I could ruin him with. Tomorrow, I would file for divorce. I would transmit the proof of his affair to his company, where relationships between managers and staff were outright discouraged. Every single account would be frozen, leaving him destitute. Nathan felt he could leave me without repercussions. He erred. Rising my wine glass, I peered outside my window at the city lights. Nathan knew nothing about what was ahead of him. I did, however, and I was going to relish each instant of his collapse. The next morning, I woke up with a clearer goal than I had in years. Nathan felt he could juggle Brianna and me like a magician executing a cheap trick, that he was in charge. He neglected me, though. He was unaware that I had spent half the night compiling every bit of evidence: financial records, social media entries, phone logs, and most significantly, the documentation of his falsehoods. He also had no knowledge that I had already taken my first action. By 8 a.m., I was seated across from my years of working manager from my bank. "I have to immediately separate my money from my husband," I said. He arched his eyebrow. "Mrs. Thompson, is there a problem here?" They're filled with transaction records displaying Nathan emptying our joint accounts for first-class flights, expensive hotels, and gifts for his mistress. I slipped a folder across the desk. His face became dark. I grasp. "We will make sure he cannot touch any more of your money. My accounts were safe in minutes. The credit cards Nathan owned will shortly stop operating. And the best thing is that it would not even dawn on him until he tried to pay for something. One drop down. Many more still to be done." Returning to my office, I opened my laptop to review the most recent changes. Brianna had published one more, captioned, "Nothing like a romantic dinner with my love." An image of 2 wine glasses on a restaurant table. My gut turned coldly, not with pain. With fingers nervously clutching the mouse, I scrolled through the comments. "Very glad for you. When would be the major move-in? At last, free to be seen. You are deserved. The nicest thing that have ever happened to me is him. Looking forward our new life together." Our newly shared life? I let out a dry chuckle. Nathan had been arranging his life with her, based on my sacrifices, a future sponsored by my money, and he considered he could just leave. Not at all. I would see to it he lost everything. On the first ring, Rachel answered when I phoned her. "How terrible is it?" She saw it right away. "Worse than I thought," I said. "He's been hiding money, lying for months, and now he's preparing to move in with her." Rachel let out a slow breath. "Are you not going to let him walk away with this?" I just gave a chilly smile. Not a chance. I sent her all the screenshots, bank records, and supporting documentation. I advised her to start working on the divorce paperwork and be sure we have everything. The tone of Rachel became harsh. "He will not know what struck him." That was the intended course of action. My phone hummed later that evening. "Nathan?" I let it ring twice, then responded, plastering a smile into my voice. "Hey, sweetheart," I remarked gently. "How's your travel?" He let out a big sigh. "Though I miss you, it's fantastic. For me alone, this time has been really fantastic. I really feel re-energized." Revised? I looked at the photo of Brianna and him seated by the pool with drinks in hand. "Tell me more," I said gently. "The finest part has been what?" Nathan smiled. "Just the fresh air, the silence. You know, I have been thinking about us and journaling. I genuinely value your helping me with this." As if he were pleased of himself for fooling me, I could nearly hear the smile in his voice. "Of course," I murmured. "I only want you to be happy." I realized I had him at that moment. He was unaware that I was seated atop a toolkit of evidence meant to damage him. Rachel texted me right away as the call finished. "Examining your email. You are going to enjoy this." I started the attachment and almost laughed aloud. It was a copy of the personnel handbook for Nathan's company. And there it was, boldly printed. Policies on fraternization. Direct subordinates' connections with supervisors will immediately result in termination and legal review. Nathan was more than simply cheating. He was running against business policy. Years of ascending that company had helped him to develop a reputation, and I was ready to knock it down with one stroke. I wrote Susan Mills, the HR chief at Nathan's employer, an email. Subject: Notable policy issue to Susan. I'm writing to let you know some alarming facts about an improper working relationship that might influence business policies. Attached, you will find pertinent evidence. Tell me the direction you want to take, please. Best? Thompson Lana. I included every piece of negative proof I possessed. I then click send. Perfect little world Nathan was living was about to fall apart. His organization would learn of his affair. His credit cards would not be used. His money stood frozen. 5 paces ahead was his wife, the one he thought he had misled. The finest part is also that he still considered me to be naive. Not for much longer. I slumped back in my chair and filled a glass with wine. Allow the games to start. I experienced a surge of gratification the instant I typed submit to Nathan's HR division on the email. His ideal little world fell apart not too far off. Nathan, seated poolside with Brianna, sipping pricey cocktails paid for with my money, totally ignorant that his job, money, and reputation were going to burn. I had not to wait very long. Susan Mills, the HR chief at Nathan's company, responded to me exactly at 9:30 a.m. the following morning. Subject: Policy concern of urgent nature. To Lana, dear, we appreciate you forward this to us. Our legal team is being escalated this topic for quick evaluation. Given the seriousness of these accusations, Nathan Thompson has been put on temporary leave awaiting an internal inquiry. We shall discuss further actions. Good regards, Mills, Susan, Head of Human Resources. I smiled. The flawless career Nathan had spent years refining was already starting to fall apart. I see him locked out trying to check his business email. The knowledge that he wasn't as untouchable as he had assumed sets off the terror. And the best thing is that, still, he had no idea it was me doing this. By lunchtime, I answered another call, this one from my bank. Ms. Thompson, we wanted to make sure your demand to freeze credit lines and any joint accounts was handled. I gracefully grinned. Exactly. Has anyone on Nathan's card this morning engaged in activity? The banker gave a pause. Really, yes. A few turned down offers, one from a fancy store and another from a Bahamas resort. Brianna had to have tried shopping. I almost became depressed for her. Approximately. I pictured her standing at the register swiping Nathan's now worthless credit card, uncertainty transforming into shame as she discovered her sugar daddy's money had vanished. Unfortunately, my phone chimed at 3:30 p.m. Nathan. Hey, darling. Odd thing. My work email isn't working. Problem perhaps? Nathan. Our bank account seems to be off as well. Several fees dropped? Nathan. Could you look at this? I let the messages to sit. 5 minutes later, still another text. Lana. Nathan. I grinned. Waited a bit more before answering. Me. Oh my, that's unusual. I'll investigate it. Still another 10 minutes went by. Nathan. All right. Just let me know. This is quite strange. I put my phone down. Allow him to wriggle. His life unfits in real time. Rachel gave me a call later that evening. See? Her voice laughed as she asked. See what? I asked, sipping a glass of wine. Look on Facebook. I picked up my phone and clicked on Brianna's profile. Then there it was. Status update? Heartbroken here. Her section on comments was bursting. And what happened? Girl, did he act as expected? Wait, not he was married? Brianna then answered personally, Nathan has been lying to me all this entire time, I recently discovered. Guess what he stated he was leaving his wife? He not filed for divorce. Almost I spit out my drink. On the other side of the phone, Rachel was giggling. She only learned recently. What's such a moron? I shook my head and ran across the comments. Nathan was dragging Brianna through the muck in her whole social circle. And right when I felt things could not get any better, Nathan, babe, we really ought to discuss. Give me a call right now. Oh, now he's interested in conversation? I picked up and kept a pleasant voice. Nate, how is your journey going? He let out a hard cough. Lana, there is something going on. My work email is locked, my bank cards are not working, and now Brianna is panicking because she recently learned you never sought divorce? I cut off. Noise. I went on, my voice cool. Nathan, why did you not tell her you were still married? Up until now, you have been quite honest. He gave a nervous chuckle. Lana, listen. Oh, I am listening? I cut him off. I'm listening to you scrambling because your mistress is exposing you, your job is investigating you, and your money is gone. The quiet persisted on. You did this, didn't you? He said in a low, threatening voice. I turned to grin. Oh, honey, I've hardly started at all. Susan Mills emailed me early next morning. Subject: notified right away. Termination. Notice. Hi, Lana. After looking over the facts, the company has decided to let Nathan Thompson go effective right away. Additionally, subject to court examination for financial misbehavior is he. Closing the email, I felt great delight. For years, Nathan had believed he was untouchable, that he could lie, deceive, and control his path through life without payback. Right now, his tenure came to an end. His financial situation, freezing. His mistress, introducing him to the outside world. And me too. I wasn't bound. I inhaled deeply and walked onto my balcony, the early light tanning my skin. I felt light, first of its kind in years. Nathan concluded. and I was still getting started. Nathan had always felt he was the sharpest person in the room, thinking he was untouchable, a great manipulator able to keep everyone dancing to his song, No More. All that remained was the last blow, his mistress publicly embarrassing him, his job destroyed, his wealth in ruins, and I was more than qualified to present. Exactly 48 hours had passed since I found out Nathan had been sacked. Nathan, just talk to me, Lana. Nathan, though you're angry, we can work things out. Nathan, I merely need some cash to straighten things out. Is there a meeting possible? Shaking my head in wonder, I fixed my phone. He still assumed I would assist him even now. After everything, he did not understand the conflict was already done. I gave some time before answering. Me. Indeed. Let's get together. Nathan advised getting together at a neutral location, a peaceful downtown cafe. Arriving early, I chose a table with ideal viewing angles. I then got on a call. Hey, Susan, are you aware whether HR has yet formally announced Nathan's leaving? She laughed. Then there was a pause. As it happens, we were going to just why. Do me a favor. Forward it right now. 5 minutes later, Nathan strolled in. I could see his face worn with tiredness. His customary assurance vanished. Replaced by a desperate desperation, he exuded the kind of man aware of his life disintegrating. He began, Lana, settling into the chair opposite from me. Look, His phone pulsed before he could continue. I saw him pull it out, his face gradually losing color. Every staff member, client, and partner had received the formal email from his previous employer. Subject, termination notes. Nathan Thompson. Nathan Thompson is no longer working at Morrison Webster. Effective right away. Corporate policy infractions, financial misbehavior, and improper working interactions have resulted in a permanent termination of his employment. Though the cafe was quiet, I could sense panic in his eyes. I slanted back and drank some coffee. Did you not see that coming? Nathan closed his jaw. Lana, please. He even begged. His voice almost above a whisper, he screamed, You have no idea what you have done. I am devoid of anything left. I have frozen accounts. My line of work is no more. My reputation has been ruined. I bent my head, acting to consider. Well, maybe you should have thought about that before pilfering from our joint accounts and screwing your secretary at a hotel I paid for. His fingers drew into fists. Lana, this is not a game. I put my coffee down and stared him straight in the eye. Nathan, no, never a game was this one. But you handled it just as one. You then lost. Nathan never could have seen the lawsuit approaching. 2 days later, I formally sued him for using marital funds improperly. Every wire transfer, every illegal charge, every dollar he spent on Brianna out of our joint account had receipts. He owed me $250,000 at the time my lawyers finished. His reaction, Nathan, are you actually serious? Nathan, I hardly have that sort of money either. Nathan, please, Lana, I will do anything. We don't have to do this. I not even responded. For years, he had emptied my bank account. Nowadays, his turn came for him to feel helpless. Nathan committed financial crimes outside of our marriage as well. Recall how Rachel and I came upon those secret accounts? As it happens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in embezzled money were also discovered by the forensic auditors at his former employer. And corporate theft. A felony is what that is. 2 weeks later, the arrest took place. Nathan had been trying to work with me, wondering whether he could pay any of his debt back off. Still, it was beyond my control already. Breaking news, former Morrison Webster executive arrested for financial misbehavior. The piece reached every significant corporate publication in the state. Nathan was shown being escorted out his condo in handcuffs. And the finest thing is still yet to come. Brianna vanished nowhere to be seen. The second things became ugly. She left him. She wasn't his soulmate then either. 1 month later, Nathan in prison called me. I let it ring. Then, driven just by curiosity, I responded. Lana, he said, his voice strained. Just kindly. Just observe. Nothing was mentioned. I had nothing. I need your assistance. I gave a little chuckle. Nathan, you stole from me over years of lying to and manipulating me. You now want my assistance as well? He let out a hard cough. I made mistakes, but you didn't have to trash me. I gave a grin. That is where you are mistaken, Nathan. I certainly did. I hung up. The day my divorce was finalized, I celebrated. For beverages, Rachel, one of my colleagues, even Susan from HR joined me. Surprising me even was James Morrison, the CEO of Nathan's former company. He drew me away, shook his head. Lana, I have to admit, I never have seen someone manage betrayal with such accuracy. I stood up and lifted a glass. Years of legal training. He nodded smugly. You know, we would hire you in a second should you ever wish a career in corporate fraud investigation. I thought about it. For years, Nathan had treated my career as a side issue. Right now, it was the thing that brought me fairness. Perhaps it was time I put it to use supporting other ladies just like me. Nathan spent 5 years behind bars. Brianna disappeared off the public scene. Me too. I moved into a brand new apartment overlooking the city with floor-to-ceiling windows. The house? The one Nathan aimed at pilfering from me? I market it. I aimed for no hints of him. Right now, I now had freedom. I had my career, my future, my self-respect. And Nathan? He found nothing. Checkmates. I had nothing the day Nathan was condemned. Not anger, no triumph here. No grief, solely alleviation. I had carried his lies, his manipulation, his dishonesty for years. Currently, it had ended. He ceased to be my concern. I never meant to run across him once more, but destiny had other ideas. 6 months later, I was standing outside the Denver courtroom attending an unrelated case. I saw a transport van drawing up as I left, and Nathan later on, wearing an orange jumpsuit, strapped at the ankles and wrists. He glanced at me, and Nathan Thompson looked really broken. For the first time in his terrible life, maybe to curse me, maybe to beg, he opened his mouth, but I didn't give a damn. I stopped nothing. I paid him no attention. I passed simply walking past, for he was no longer important. Living in the wake of Nathan's devastation, I had spent so long not really thinking through. What then do I wish for? My life was mine once more. First in years. I thereby created something fresh. I left the company where I had worked for 10 years, where rumors of the woman who destroyed her cheating husband persisted, accepting James Morrison's offer. I worked for a company investigating corporate frauds, focused on situations similar to mine. And let me say, there were quite many. Strong men who felt they could cheat, steal, and control their way through life. They never saw me on approach, since I know their game better than theirs. An envelope turned up one day. No return address. Yet, I knew just exactly who it was from. Nathan is. It spent an hour seated on my desk. Second, then 2. Then at last I grabbed it. Then turned it straight toward the shredder. I had no need reading his sad apologies. False apologies. Begging for help. Nathan had wasted my years over here. I was not giving him another 2 seconds. I had been the wife of Nathan for so long. Right now, once more Lana was. I made trips to Greece, Japan, Italy. I caught up with former friends. I even began dating, gingerly, deliberately, not to replace Nathan, but rather to remind myself of what I deserved. And let me say, that felt absolutely fantastic. Nathan used to ridicule my line of work constantly. I should not work so much, he remarked. I was too ambitious. Ultimately, though, it was my brains, my work, and my abilities that totally ruined him. That buried him was my success. And now, I was vibrating. In a 6x8 cage, he wasted away. One calm evening, I stood on my apartment balcony with a view of the city, one city I had taken over. Grinning as I whispered to the evening, I raised my glass of wine. Goodbye, Nathan. And I felt free, first of all, in years. Indeed, totally free. Nathan Thompson became into a ghost in my life, not in the frightening residual sense, but rather in the way erases itself across time. The court case disappeared from headlines. The murmurs of my vengeance tale became nothing more than workplace gossip from individuals who hardly knew me, and even the recollection of his voice, his touch, his presence began to vanish. And that was precisely what I was hoping for. The house. The one Nathan had so sorely sought to pilfer from me. I offered it for sale, not in line with his winning, not in response to terrible recollections, but since I had outgrown it. That house had been a crime scene, a battlefield, a lie-filled venue. I didn't have to live there to keep myself reminded that I had prevailed. I so signed the paperwork, turned over the keys to a young newlywed couple, and left. Because I wasn't merely moving out. I was heading ahead. I purchased a modern, elegant apartment in downtown overlooking the skyline. It was everything my former abode lacked. Fresh, new, unspoiled by treachery. I decorated it exactly as I had wanted. Not one in compromise, not one in discussions. I owned this. For the first time in years, I was not basing decisions on a man who did not deserve me. Me was the one I was picking. That took place during a business gala. I saw her while there with my company celebrating a big fraud case victory. Brianna. She gazed strange. Not the assured, haughty mistress from those Facebook pictures. No, she appeared disoriented. Repentant. A shell covering the woman she had previously been. We locked eyes. She pauses. She then started to walk toward me. I stiffened myself, looking for apologies, explanations, excuses. Rather, she said just, I was stupid. I looked up an eyebrow, anticipated. She let out a strong gulp, a sorrowful, bitter laugh. I thought I was winning. As it happens, I was simply another pawn. I was not sympathetic to her. Still, I could see, since once upon a time I had also believed Nathan. I then nodded. I am aware, and I turned to leave with that. Since the truth was what it was, she became meaningless. Months passed to become a year. The company was doing remarkably well, never stronger than my reputation was. One evening, contemplating everything that had happened as I sat on my balcony and watched the Denver skyline sparkle against the night sky, the treachery is clear. The lies, destruction, and finally, the justice, the revival. I was not the same lady who had first trusted Nathan Thompson. I become more robust, better, unwavering. Most crucially, too, I was at last at freedom. Nathan most certainly still thought about me somewhere, in a prison cell, about how he had undervalued me, on his loss. Nonetheless, I hardly gave him any thought, since his chapter in my life was finished, and I had already begun to compose a far better narrative, where he hardly existed at all.